Hello and welcome. In this lesson, we are going to be diving into the world of compliance management systems. We'll explore what they are, why they're so much more than just a bunch of rules, and how a global standard like ISO 37301 gives us a fantastic blueprint for getting it right. So let me ask you, when you hear the word compliance, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For a lot of us, it's things like bureaucracy, endless box ticking, and, let's be honest, a big expense. It often gets a bad rap as this necessary evil you just have to put up with. But is that really all it is? Just another line item on the budget? Well, the modern answer to that is a resounding no. In fact, if you're only looking at compliance as a cost, you are missing a huge opportunity. Because when you weave it into the very fabric of your strategy, it stops being a burden. It actually becomes a powerful asset, a real competitive advantage that builds trust and opens up all kinds of new doors. Okay, so how do we make that mental shift? It all starts by realizing that a real compliance management system, or a CMS for short, is so much more than just a dusty old rulebook that's sitting on a shelf somewhere. At its core, this is what we're talking about. A CMS is the entire ecosystem that a company builds to make sure it's meeting all of its obligations. And that doesn't just mean laws and regulations. We're also talking about industry standards, promises you've made in contracts, and even your own internal codes of conduct. It's really a living, breathing system for making integrity a part of your day-to-day operations. All right, so that's the what. But now for the really important part, the why. Why does building a solid CMS matter so much for good governance and, creating a business that's built to last? This slide just lays it out so perfectly. It really shows the two different paths a company can go down. On the left, you've got the consequences of ignoring compliance. You're talking sanctions, lawsuits, and the kind of damage to your reputation that is just incredibly difficult to bounce back from. But on the right, that's the reward for doing it right. A strong CMS builds deep, lasting trust with your customers and partners. It opens up new markets, and it creates a culture where people feel empowered to do the right thing. It's really the difference between constantly playing defense and getting to play offense. So, the benefits are pretty clear, right? The next logical question is, how do you actually build one? What are the key building blocks that make up a really strong and effective compliance management system?
Well, it all begins with the foundation, and that foundation has to start at the very top. I mean it. If your leadership isn't genuinely committed, the whole thing is built on shaky ground. That commitment from the top is what allows a true compliance culture to grow, a place where ethical behavior just becomes second nature. And of course, you can't comply with rules you don't know exist, so systematically figuring out all your obligations is an absolutely critical first step.
So once that foundation is in place, we can build the engine. This is the operational heart of the CMS. It kicks off with a really honest risk assessment, thinking about what could realistically go wrong. From there, you build clear policies to act as guardrails, and then you make sure everyone knows exactly what their role is. But here's the key. This isn't a set it and forget it kind of thing. Ongoing training is the fuel that keeps this engine running smoothly. And finally, a great CMS is never actually finished. It's a living system that has to evolve. That means you need open channels for communication and safe ways for people to report concerns. It means you're constantly monitoring performance to see what's really working and what's not. And when something does go wrong, because look, it eventually will, you need a solid process to investigate it, fix it, and learn from it. It's this constant cycle of getting better and better. Let's just zoom in for a second on a critical piece of that communication system, whistleblowing. For people to feel safe enough to raise their hand when they see potential misconduct, the system has to be fundamentally trustworthy. That means it's got to be visible and easy to find, it has to guarantee confidentiality, it needs to be managed independently, and it must lead to real, thorough investigations. If you're missing any of those four things, you lose one of your most valuable early warning systems. So we have all these essential pieces of the puzzle. But the good news is, you don't have to invent a whole new structure from scratch. There's a globally recognized blueprint that pulls all of these pieces together, and it's called the ISO 37301 standard. You can think of it like the architectural plan for building a world-class CMS. And the engine that really drives ISO 37301 is this brilliant model called the Plan, Do, Check, Act cycle. It's a simple idea, but it's incredibly powerful. You plan what you need to do based on your risks and your goals. Then you do it, you implement your controls and your training, then you check your performance through things like audits and monitoring, and finally, you act on what you've learned to make the whole system better. This simple loop ensures your CMS is never static. It's always learning, always adapting. We've covered a lot today, the what, the why, and the how of compliance management systems. So let's boil it all down to the one essential message that I really want you to take away from this. Here it is. This is the core idea. A strong compliance management system is like the root system of your organization. And those roots, grounded in integrity, are what allow you to build trust, to withstand storms, and ultimately to achieve sustainable, long-term success. This isn't just about avoiding fines. It's about building an organization that's designed to thrive from the ground up. And that leads us to our final question. And this one's for you to think about. When you look at your own organization, how deep do those roots go? How well is it prepared not just to avoid risk, but to build trust and succeed for years to come?